The relationship between the Oak Ridge boys and President Bush and Barbara Bush go back many, many, many years. Actually, it started when President Bush was the vice president. We were actually invited by then President Ronald Reagan to sing at the Congressional Barbecue on the lawn of the White House. That day, we were doing a sound check on the stage, getting ready for the show that night. And first of all, doing a sound check on the lawn of the White House is pretty amazing. You look around and you say, you know, this is not going to be your usual run-of-the-mill concert right here. This is going to be a special night. But we were doing the sound check, and we noticed this tall gentleman with a little bit of 2 or 3 guys, a little entourage around him, walking across the lawn, White House lawn, towards the stage. And he was carrying a sack. He came up on the stage. It was Vice President George Bush. He took vice presidential T-shirts out of his bag and gave us all vice presidential T-shirts. And he introduced himself, of course, and he proceeded to tell us that he was a big fan of ours. And he said, I cannot make the concert tonight. He said, would you guys be kind enough maybe to do a couple of songs for me right now? So we said, of course, Mr. Vice President. What would you like to hear? He started naming songs. And I think it's then that we realized that he was a true fan of ours, because he mentioned songs that were not hits. He started mentioning obscure album cuts. You had to be a real hardcore fan to know the songs that he was requesting. And so we kind of hit it off with him back then as vice president, and we established a friendship that continues to this present day. And they are some of the most wonderful people you'll ever want to meet. George and Barbara, I mean, it's hard to find words to describe how nice they really are. They're wonderful people.
And that's your first memory. I'm sure you've had many more. Did you ever get a chance to play for him after that?
Oh, yes. In fact, when we found out that he was going to run for President of the United States, he asked us if we would be willing to go on the campaign trail with him. And of course we said yes. And we made several stops, you know, on the campaign trail. And then 4 years later, we campaigned for him again. And at that time, he was the incumbent. So he campaigned in Air Force One. So we had a chance on a couple of occasions to actually fly on Air Force One. Now that is one of the highlights of my life, along with singing at the White House and spending the night at the White House with George Bush. Actually flying on Air Force One was really an amazing experience. It really was.
And when you heard the news about his health, I'm sure that was difficult for you guys being close to him.
Well, there's no question about it. As soon as we heard that he was in the hospital, we all became very concerned, and we followed the news very, very closely. We looked for reports every day, trying to monitor his status, you know. And we all started talking one day, boy, you know, maybe, you know, if we could sing a song for him, it just might cheer him up. And we found out in the meantime, Barbara Bush and some of the members of the Bush family, Neil Bush and Dora Bush, who were there at the hospital, they were having the same idea as well. And we were able to get together with them and work it out for us to gather right here, right at this spot where I'm sitting, right here at this table. We set up the phone right here, and we actually sang, you know, to the president, and we got him on the phone, and we asked him, Mr. President, what would you like to hear? He did not hesitate. Elvira was the words that came out of his mouth immediately. So we sat here and we sang Elvira, and we sent a few Papa Mau Maus his way. And then after we finished that, we knew that his favorite song is Amazing Grace. So we sang, you know, a verse of Amazing Grace for him. And according to the reports from Barbara Bush and the Bush family who were at the bedside, they say his face just glowed. And so, you know, we've always felt that music in itself is very healing, and it can be. And in this case, I think it certainly was. Our singing to the president seemed to give him a real boost, and the next day, he came out of intensive care and went into a regular room. So it made us feel so good. It really did.
Yeah, I was going to say it has to make you feel good to know that you put a smile on somebody's face when they're that sick, and that it's a friend of yours that you're doing it for.
You're absolutely right. I think in general, over the course of the years, we've gotten some mail and emails now, you know, from people who say that our music has touched them, has helped them get through difficult times. And so to see that, you know, certainly makes us feel good, but especially a dear friend and a former president of the United States, it certainly did make us feel very good.
How does it feel to you all to be able to say that a former president is a dear friend? Not many people can say that.
You're absolutely correct. You know, there's very few people that can say that. And like I say, we've had a special friendship with George and Barbara over the years. We have spent almost every summer 2 or 3 days up at Kennebunkport at their beautiful place they have up there. And we've just had a wonderful time and a wonderful relationship. And hopefully we're going to see him come out of that hospital and live for a long time to come.